Okay, the Hebrew word kafar, the verb kafar, means to cover over. A kafaret is a cover. It's just a lid. Yet, for some reason, the King James translators have to put in their mercy seat. Now, first of all, I have a problem with that, because they're interpreting the text for you. That's just an interpretation. And they're giving you their interpretation. However, there's a reason for it. Most of us may not be aware of. But still, I would much prefer to see a translation of the cover of the ark or the lid of the ark with a footnote explaining what this means, which is what I'm going to go into now. Cherubim. In the King James, it says cherubims. Anybody recognize the problem with that? Yeah, the S. Okay, cherubim is the plural form, the Hebrew plural form of cherub, or cheruvim. Anybody know what a cherubim looks like? Or a cherub, a cheruv? All right, on top of that ark, on top of that picture, is the way most of the times we see depicted the cherubim is two angels with their wings stretched out in front and touching at the tips. That's the way most of us picture it. Indiana Jones, that's how it looks, right? It must be right. Hollywood said so. Where do we get most of our imagery of characters and events in the Bible? From artists, sculptors, from the Middle Ages, even modern times. This is a picture of the famous Last Supper. This is how many people view the Last Supper. Is there anything wrong with this picture? All right, let's see if we can find out what they are. What? It's Greek. How is it Greek? Just the way it's laid out. A table. There were no tables. Were they sitting in chairs? They were reclining on pillows. What else? Should be dark outside. It's noon there in that picture. What else? Leavened bread, puffy bread. There ain't no matzah. Fish! Anything else? No Jews. There is one Jew in that picture. Judas. He's always portrayed as Jewish. Anything else? No lamb. Blonde hair. They look like Italians. I'll tell you what my biggest pet peeve with this picture is. No children. We never thought of that, did we? Nowhere in the text does it say only the 12 Talmudim were with him. It never says that. When the rabbi did a Seder, when you watch documentaries on Jewish homes, maybe you've seen them even on some movies, when they do a Seder, who comes? The whole family. We have 12 Talmudim. How many? Some of them were married. We know that, right? How many children, grandchildren? I envision Yeshua's Passover Seder with maybe 60, 70 people, children running around. I mean, can you imagine that? This is not a Passover Seder. Okay? I imagine the rabbi. There's another thing that's missing here. The talits. Anyway, my point to this is that a lot of our perceptions of biblical events and characters come from artists' renditions. So when we look at something like, let's take a look at this verse first. And you shall make the two cherubim of gold of hammered work. Shall you make them on the two ends of the mercy seat, the lid of the box. Make one cherub on one end and one cherub on the other end. Of one piece with the mercy seat shall you make the cherubim on its two ends. Notice that the two far ends. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat, the lid, with their wings. Their faces one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. Okay, here's the Hebrew word cherubim. He drove out the man at the east of the Garden of Eden. He placed the cherubim, plural, and a flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of the life. Remember when I talked about earlier about the flaming pot and the torch were one and the same thing because of the verb? Now, there's no verb here to indicate this, but I personally believe that these two things are one and the same thing, the cherubim and the flaming sword, because the flaming sword, or the sword in Hebrew, is kerev. The cherubim is cherev. They're cognates, possibly very closely related. Now, we know that there's a cherubim at the Garden of Eden. And we have two, there were at least two of them in the Garden of Eden because it's a plural, and we have two of them on the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, there's a singular form, keruv for cherubim. This is the word charev for sword. Very closely related. Also, remember I talked about the thorn bush of Mount Sinai? Okay, it's actually, it's not just a flaming bush, it's a flaming thorn bush. But also sin. Mount Sinai, both the wilderness of sin, those words are also related to thorns. In Hebraic thought, thorns can be good and they can be bad. They can be a flesh or a thorn in your side, but they can also be a hedge of protection. Balance. In vain have I smitten your children. They took no correction. Your own sword devoured your prophets like a ravening lion. Here, sword is being equated with a lion. In Genesis, we saw a sword being equated with the cherubim. Just keep those in mind. We're trying to put together a puzzle here. This is an Akkadian. Now, the Akkadians are related to the Hebrews. They're a Semitic people. They speak a language very similar to Hebrew. It's a Semitic language. This is a bas relief of a cheruv. And what is it? It is a lion with the head of an eagle with wings. Okay, that's a picture of a cheruv in the Akkadian culture. The Hebrew word keruv, we talked about the word cover, kafar. Kafar in Hebrew, in English, it means cover, and our word cover comes from it. There's a lot of examples of this. Here's another example. K-R-U-V, keruv. If we do a little, there's a law called Grimm's Law. It's an etymological method of trying to find words in one culture that come from another culture. And sometimes certain letters that sound alike get swapped. M's and N's. Okay, they get swapped from one culture to another. Like kafar, the P, the F, is similar to the V, so it changes to cover. That's Grimm's Law being applied there, taking similar sounding sounds and swapping them for another similar one. So let's see what happens when we take the K-R-U-V and we have Gariv, G-R-Y-V. This is a cognate. It's very similar in sound. Change the V to a F and we have griff. Add a suffix, the Greek suffix, and we have griffos. So a keruv, etymologically, can be a griffos, or what we call a griffon. Here's a griffos in the Greek culture again, a lion. A lion, in this case, it's got a lion head, but it has the wings. Here it is in English, British heraldry. Common is the griffos, the griffin. Interestingly, in ancient cultures, the griffins were the ones who guarded the thrones. What do we have on top of the Ark of the Covenant? The cherubim. And is the Ark a throne? Imagine yourself, I don't have a picture of this, I wish I did. Imagine the Ark of the Covenant right here in front of me, a box. And what did I say? There was one cherub on one end and one on the other end. Okay? Instead of looking at them facing this way or facing each other, think of them facing this way on each end, their heads turned facing each other, one wing of the cherub laying on its side, and on this side, this wing touching the wing of this one. What have I just created? A chair, a throne. And it is possible that that is the way that the Ark of the Covenant looked, which is why they translated it as mercy seat, because it was the throne of God, the seat, with the cherubim on both sides as the armrests and the back of that chair. This, I don't think, is what the actual ark looked like. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold of hammerwork, shall you make them on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.